As nurses, there are lessons we learn that shape our careers, patients who inspire us, cases that haunt us, experiences that stretched us to grow as advocates and professionals, stories that we laugh about, cry about, or can only commiserate with a fellow nurse. Today, as we wrap up our program, we wanted to share some stories from fellow nurses about some of the most epic experiences they have had during their career. We hope it will give you a chance to reflect on your own practice, relive some amazing memories, and be refreshed and reminded of the impact nursing has on the healing journey of patients.
I am now a school nurse, having made the transition from working with elderly patients to taking care of children. Children will often say what is on their mind, and often I am not sure where these observations come from. One particularly awesome time was when I had a first grade student that was playing outside on the blacktop fall and chip one of his front teeth. He, of course, came inside with a very bloody mouth. In the meantime, I had the playground people outside looking for the chipped tooth. My first priority was to control the massive amount of blood pouring from his front tooth. The playground people were not able to find the remnants of his front tooth. At this time, his bleeding from his tooth was controlled, and I had called his dad to tell him about the accident and of the need to call his dentist for an appointment for his front tooth. Dad did as he was told, and the first grader was on his way to the dentist and home. The next day, I received a colorful thank you note from the first grader. He wrote, "Thank you for taking care of me." This is really extraordinary because at this point, most first grade students do not write this well, let alone read really well. He had drawn a replica of my office, my recovery couch with him sitting on it, and a very large amount of red blood coming from his mouth. My desk, computer, desk chair, and me were in the picture. I know it's hard to draw someone sitting in a chair, but my picture looked like I was passed out in the chair while the student is massively bleeding from his mouth. I love the picture. The student is now grown up and probably a parent now with his own children. I would like to think that somehow I made a difference in his life. Who knows? Maybe he went on and became a nurse.
It was late summer of 1995 or 1996 when A.B., a 34-year-old wife and mother of two young boys, came to our facility. Her older son, 12 years old, found his collapsed mother on the bathroom floor. A.B. was airlifted to RMH, where Dr. S. performed a craniotomy for a ruptured cerebral aneurysm. Dr. S. held out little help for A.B.'s survival. A.B.'s husband wanted everything done in an effort to save his love's life. A.B. was my patient in the PACU before family visitation was legal. Her stay with me was marked with alternating time frames of homeostatic stability and periods of extreme hypotension and resulting titration of vasopressors and IV fluids, all the while having her respiratory status controlled by a ventilator. Since Dr. S. had accomplished all she could at RMH and A.B.'s husband was grasping at any thread of hope he could, we began preparations to have A.B. airlifted to Northwestern. At this point, my areas of concern were three-pronged. 1, A.B.'s stability. 2, assisting with transfer plans. And 3, family support. Her periods of instability were increasing in severity and length, while the time frames of stability decreased. The social worker who had been called in to orchestrate the transfer was feverishly working in a location where she was out of her element to align pieces of this puzzle into a workable mosaic. Amid this chaos, I provided information to A.B.'s husband to prepare him and his sons for what they would encounter when they came into the PACU. Beeps, bonks, alarms, moans from other patients, curtains, lots of curtains to protect patients' privacy, strange smells, and the like. I would no sooner feel that she was able enough to move forward on uniting this stressed family, and her blood pressure would drop, requiring me to change gears and concentrate on stabilizing my critical patient. After what seemed a very long time, I felt it imperative that this family be able to see with their own eyes the feverish activity that was taking place to stabilize this important person. As Mr. B and his two sons entered the hectic environment of our PACU that day, I encouraged them to stand close to her bedside, hold her hand, speak to her, tell her that they loved her, and share the feelings they were experiencing. It was unsettling for me to be in this situation because this young mother was about my same age, though my children were younger than hers. I could empathize with this young family, as I was quite certain that they would soon be embarking on an entirely new life course that they had not imagined they would ever have to encounter. AB's vital signs sagged again and again. Finally, the social worker came to the bedside to tell me that the helicopter was coming in and the flight crew would be coming to the PACU to take AB to Northwestern. This was the first time in my professional career that I had had the opportunity to be this intimately involved with a transfer of this magnitude. When the flight crew came to the bedside, they promptly took my report and prepared for transfer for her to the flight cart. They safely secured her to the cart and swiftly took her to the helipad. Mr. B was given directions to drive to Northwestern. AB left my care, leaving an open bay in the PACU and a gaping wound in my heart as I contemplated her family. REACT lifted off with AB, and by the time they were over Belvedere, she became unstable again, and they had to return to RMH to the ICU. AB was in ICU for about 2 days prior to her succumbing to her physiologic insult. I did not have the opportunity to check on her after her return to RMH. There were many times that I think back on this day and wonder what I could have done more or better to assist this family through this horrendous transition.
There are bad days in healthcare, and there are days you'll never forget. The day I consider my worst day is because of how sick my patient was, not necessarily that the world was falling apart. This particular gentleman will always be one I remember because, in all reality, he should not have lived through that hospitalization. Spoiler alert, yes, thankfully, this patient did survive. I can only say that this man clearly had not finished his purpose in life at that time because his body was actively trying to take him out anyway. I'd cared for this patient 2 days in a row. This patient was admitted for a GI bleed. And yes, there was definitely the smell to go with it. Of course, GI bleeds are potent at the worst of times. Now, try caring for him while 38 weeks pregnant. That's right, I had to take care of a very sweet GI bleed who was leaving trails of blood walking to the bathroom. Here I was, as wide as I was tall, trying to clean up blood off the floor while trying not to vomit at the same time myself. It was a comical sight, and I'm so glad I did not have any more children after that while working as a nurse. Anyway, the first night I cared for the patient, he was pleasant and had several children with him in the room. They had mentioned his wife was in the nursing home by the hospital, and they were obviously concerned about their father. He had previously been a DNR, but was willing to pause it to have a scope to see if the doctors could stop his bleed. We had a rather uneventful night except for the occasional bathroom trips. I said goodbye to him that morning and told him and the family that I would see them that night. Unfortunately, when I walked back into room that night, my patient was not doing well. The patient had undergone the scope, but was continuing to have copious amounts of coffee ground emesis. The physician stated that he was unable to stop all the bleeding, so we were going to try and care for him the best way as possible, but the outlook didn't look promising. Thankfully, I had an amazing anesthesiologist and OR nurse who stayed late to help intubate and place a central and arterial line for me so that I could provide pressors, and draw labs as needed. We had a full ICU, which was 4 beds, it was a community hospital, and 2 nurses with no assigned CNA. It was already going to be a busy night, so this just helped me provide the best care possible without delay. I chased this man's blood pressure all night long. At one point, I'd maxed out the Levophed and notified the physician. Since this patient had been a DNR prior and understood that he might not survive this procedure, he said, "Let's leave it maxed and we'll provide comfort support in the morning." We spoke with the family, who agreed with the plan. They wanted to keep him intubated until his wife could come over and say goodbye. They were so understanding through the whole process, and I continually kept them up to date on how he was doing. When morning came, I was exhausted and let the family know that they would be in my thoughts and prayers. But as you already know, that's not where this man's story ends. No, no, no. Imagine my surprise when I see this man being wheeled past me on the med-surg floor. I almost scared him because I was so excited to see he was alive and doing well. I told him that you most likely did not remember me, but I am so glad to see that you came through this hospitalization. Thankfully, this man was able to go to the rehab at the same nursing home his wife was living so they could spend some time together. This patient reminds me that it is our job as nurses to give all that we can for our patients while we're caring for them, and sometimes the outcome is good, sometimes less than ideal, and once in a while surprising. Now, if only I could get that lingering smell out of my nose.
Winters in northern Illinois are no joke, as are the injuries that we see patients admitted for. A very independent 80-year-old had gone to check his mail in the morning, slipped on the ice, and was not found until hours later. By then his prognosis was very poor. He had hit his head, suffered a stroke, and was hypothermic by the time he was found. He was admitted to our unit for comfort care measures. His family was incredibly supportive and caring. From the heartache you could see just etched on their faces, this man was so loved and respected by his family. End-of-life care for stroke patients can be particularly challenging, as symptoms tend to fluctuate in presentation. This creates an emotional roller coaster for the family, who may misinterpret improvements in speech or mobility as a sign of prognosis reversal. Over the course of that week, we did a lot of education, answered questions, and provided support. One of the daughters mentioned that her dad was a huge sports fan, and the parents would always host a large Super Bowl party with their family and friends. With the reality that that weekend was the last Super Bowl he would have with his family, we began to plan. We shuffled room assignments so we could transfer him to one of our largest patient rooms on the unit. Our hospital TVs, as you know, cannot exactly be described as a large screen, but we rearranged the room to plug in his hospital bed to the outlet closest to the TV. Making sure he was facing on his good side, he had a clear view of the game. To add to the tailgate party, family brought in lawn chairs, coolers, and tons of food. There was a steady stream of visitors all day Super Bowl Sunday. It was truly a celebration of life. Although he passed away a few days later, I'd like to think his family could look back with some happy memories of that Super Bowl, even as they grieve the loss of their loved one.
It was Christmas Day, 1982. I was working in the intensive care unit, and it had been a fairly quiet morning until we got a call to prepare for an admission from labor and delivery. Most of us ICU nurses don't like birthing babies, but this patient was in crisis. We prepared the room and readied ourselves to provide care. The young woman had just delivered a baby girl and had developed postpartum hemorrhage. The uncontrolled bleeding led the labor and delivery staff to initiate a transfer to ICU. Many units of blood, packed cells, and platelets were given to little effect. The patient spiraled into DIC. The husband came to the unit to check on his young wife. He was so torn. elated about the birth of his daughter, but very concerned about his wife's condition. We worked on this patient for quite a while, trying to get ahead of the bleeding, but things just kept getting worse. Blood was coming from every orifice and puncture site. It was the first time I had given heparin to treat DIC. Nothing worked, and she ended up passing away. The husband was distraught. Through his sobs, we heard how much they had wished for and planned for the baby. "How can I care for her all by myself?" he said. It was heart-wrenching. Every Christmas, I think about this family, that young woman who died giving birth to a longed-for baby, that young father who was overwhelmed by the unexpected loss of his wife, and that little baby girl who would never know her mother. She would be 42 years old now, and maybe a mother herself. On Christmas Day, I pray to the Holy Family to embrace and protect that family and to give them peace. When I think back on that day and the lessons learned, here is what I have incorporated into my practice. In the midst of all the chaos and the noise and the blood, there is a person in there. We need to remember to care for the patient, their loved ones, and also each other.
The COVID-19 pandemic deeply affected us in so many aspects of life, including work, home, our communities, our nation, and our world. Practically overnight, everything changed. Our workplace settings experienced the cancellation of all elective surgeries. The demand for PPE caused shortages. Surge preparations were in high gear, including cross-training staff to other departments. Visitors were no longer allowed in our hospitals. All our patients were having either urgent or emergent surgeries and had to brave it without their loved ones by their side. Despite knowing and understanding the reasons, it was extremely upsetting for me to imagine being the patient going through the surgical experience without my husband with me, especially during this pandemic. Providing comfort and support to patients while each of us are behind a face mask with limited human touch was at times painfully challenging. Knowing patients were in pain, feeling vulnerable and scared, I wanted them to know that even though their mom or fiance was not there, they were not alone. They needed to know we cared and were there for them. After reflecting on this and doing some journaling, I purchased some polished gemstone rocks and brought them into work. Upon greeting my patients, I recognized and discussed the absence of their special person. Then I gave them a rock and shared that it represents we are their rock. I encouraged them to lean on us, letting us support them in any way that they needed. This was something I needed to do for my self-care, and it certainly made me feel better. The response from my patients touched me more than expected. I anticipated patients would appreciate the act of compassion, but I did not anticipate it moving them to tears, telling me, "I do not want to let it go. I'm keeping this forever, and because of it, I am no longer afraid." This turned into a beautiful way of connecting with our patients while they were feeling apart. Finding healthy ways to care for ourselves, including acknowledging our feelings and emotions, is so important in order to stay grounded and able to care for others.
Reflecting on my nursing career, one of the things I'm most grateful for are the lessons I learned from my patients. I remember caring for a middle-aged mother of 2 teenage boys. She had been admitted to the hospital for vague symptom presentation, which was diagnosed to be a reoccurrence of her cancer from years ago. Over the course of her hospitalization, we talked about her treatment plan, symptom management when she got home, and of course her family. I remember asking her one day, "How are you doing?" And I will never forget her response. She looked straight in my eyes and said, "I give myself 5 minutes in the shower every day to feel sorry for myself. Some days I need all 5 minutes to cry and be angry and bitter. Other days I don't. But I never give it more than 5 minutes, because I have life to live. Her resilience to not let her disease or prognosis define who she was really stuck with me. What an example of courage in the face of such a challenging situation. It really puts into perspective all the blessings that God has given us.
My experiences with nursing began in 1978 when I was a senior in high school. And I did start working as a nursing assistant for my mother, who was the director of nursing at a local nursing home. It was probably with a lot of trepidation she hired me because it was very hard to find help. But it was here that the foundation for me for becoming a nurse first formed. I had many memorable patients that I cared for in the nursing home. Some of the patients more memorable than others. My most memorable patient was 89 years old and had dementia and confusion. She would frequently be wheelchair bound and she would use her feet for locomotion. It was a weekly chore to give her a shower, which most of the time I regretted that it was my turn to do. One day I knew in my mind that she would get the best of me. Most of the time when I gave her a shower, she was placed in a rolling shower chair and rolled into the shower. Most of her energy was spent trying to escape, and she would beat you physically and gain her escape by hanging onto the shower rail and pulling herself out of the shower. You also had to be careful, as she would often have a loose stool while she was being showered. One day, being the crafty person that I am, I devised a plan to get her shower done efficiently. I gave her a soapy washcloth and encouraged her to wash herself. Imagine my surprise. Instead of her washing herself, I was promptly hit with a soapy washcloth across my eyes and blinded as she made her escape. I promptly rinsed the soap out of my eyes and proceeded to finish her shower. Distraction, I found, helped me with difficult patients. I also found the ability to forgive her for the soapy washcloth across the eyes. This patient quickly became one of my favorite patients. I worked the PM shift and often took my break around 7 o'clock p.m. The kitchen was closed at this time. One day, one of my favorite resident came wheeling in her wheelchair around our break room. She announced very loudly, "Lady! 1/2 a cup of sugar and 1/2 a cup of tea for you and me," which was preceded by her knocking loudly on any surface she could find. She would continue this until she was given her hot tea. On this day, the kitchen was closed and I couldn't give her the hot tea that she so wanted. My usual meal for supper was a can of pop and a candy bar. I know, so nutritious and delicious. That day I had an RC Cola and proceeded to give her a small amount of RC Cola in a cup. She took the cup and drank some and loudly proclaimed, "Lady," she said, "that is strong stuff." As nursing staff on break, we all had a good laugh, and it was a reminder to me that just because she was old, she had not experienced all of the things that I had experienced as a 17-year-old. And to this day, she's the only person that come up with her own little chant, and I believe she was a pre-rapper before rap was cool. I believe our funny stories help to define us as nurses. It certainly helped to have a laugh and distress a stressful situation. Other residents at the home taught me that an altered reality and being confused was just a way to deal with mental disability and also the physical disability of getting older.
At the onset of primary nursing care delivery, I cared for Mrs. S. a number of days. Mrs. S. was a frail, elderly lady who was virtually total care. For the previous 3 days, she had slipped into a non-responsive state. On this particular day, I accompanied her physician, Dr. M., as he assessed her during his rounds. To our surprise, Mrs. S. awoke upon our entrance to her room. As we approached her bed, she raised her index finger and curled it in a beckoning motion. "Come closer," she whispered. Following my patient's command, I took a couple of steps toward her. Closer was her follow-up instruction, as her sign language also indicated. Taking a couple steps closer, now at her bedside, she again repeated her previous command. I obliged and was now in close proximity to have my ear very close to her lips. It was at this point she made her comment that would accompany me for almost the remainder of my professional career. "You shithead," she said loudly enough for Dr. M to hear. Wide-eyed, I looked at Dr. M, who almost doubled over with laughter. The following day, Mrs. S slipped back into her unresponsive state. No matter, she had said her piece.